This mountain stream in California, called the American River, is one of the most famous rivers in the world. Because here, where this stone marker stands, gold was discovered in 1848 on the site of John Sutter's mill. And in the California hills stand deserted mining towns built 100 years ago and then abandoned when the great gold rush was over. What did this ghost town look like about 100 years ago in the gold rush days of '49? The place is called Frontier Town. It's a boom town, only a year or two old. Gold seekers are coming in from many parts of the country. The country is growing now in 1849. The United States is still a young nation. Most people live in the East. West of the Mississippi, vast territories with some settlements in the Southwest and California. Our story begins in the East, in Shelburne, a quiet village in New England. This is Shelburne, Vermont. It's an old town where generations of the Whitcomb family have lived. It's 1849, a Sunday morning in late summer. That's young David Whitcomb stopping by the village store where a few men have gathered. That newspaper must be mighty interesting. Yes, the story in that paper is going to change David's whole life. So we'll let David Whitcomb tell it in his own way.
If I live to be 100, I shall never forget how I felt when I read about the discovery of gold in California. Gold. The paper told about the gold fields near Sacramento, and the word gold kept running through my head. I remember that I ran all the way home and almost knocked Father over in my rush to tell him. Yes, my mind was made up. I wanted to go to California. It was a grave decision. Father reminded me that I was not yet 21. We'd better discuss it with your mother, he suggested. So we held a family council. It took a lot of talking. Even my sister Betsy said I wasn't cut out to be a gold miner. But finally, I got permission. A week later, I was leaving Shelburne for the greatest adventure of my life. With all my possessions in one carpet bag, my long journey to California began with a buggy ride. I was on my way to New York, about 250 miles away, where I could reach a railroad. It was my first look at a train. What a powerful lot of noise and smoke the engine made. I felt very fortunate, for I was carried almost 180 miles by rail, another leg in my long journey from Shelburne. At Baltimore, I took a stagecoach for Independence, Missouri, a jumping-off place for the West. Riding in the stagecoach day after day for several weeks, I began to wonder if I should have tried to reach California by ship. From New York, I could have taken a ship, as I heard many gold seekers were doing. Then I might have made the voyage by sea. It would have been a faster trip, but much longer, all the way around Cape Horn, and then to San Francisco. But I had not taken a ship, and I could not turn back now. At Independence, Missouri, I joined some friendly folks who were part of a wagon train heading for California. And now began the hardest part, the overland trail. It was more than 2,500 miles from Independence to Sacramento. We would follow the Oregon Trail to the Utah country, then pick up the California Trail. What shall I say of those weary days on the trail? On a good day, we could make as much as 22 miles, sometimes only 10 or 12. I had never realized how vast our country was. I saw a lot. Endless, open country. Indians on the Great Plains. dry, rocky foothills. And then the desert, so different from the green lands back east. Weeks of hardship took their toll. Our trail was marked with the graves of those who died on the way. When we camped at night, I had a chance to write things down. Letters I hoped to send my parents when I reached California. Dearest parents and Sister Betsy, I wrote one night. I've just finished a meager supper of beans and dried beef. No fresh food since we killed a buffalo 2 weeks ago. The journey has been hard, but the settlers I'm traveling with say we should reach Sacramento in another week. Sacramento was in the heart of the gold mining country. There were mining camps nearby with odd names like Cut-Eye, Hangtown, Slumgullion, You Bet, and Red Dog. In Sacramento, I was glad to get a stagecoach that was going to Frontier Town in the gold country. This was the last of my 3,000-mile journey. As the coach bumped along, I thought, would I find gold in California? Would I make my fortune? Be rich, famous? Or maybe a failure? Frontier Town was the end of my trip to the far west. It was a rough and ready town, then but a year or two old. There were men of every kind, most of them gold seekers like me. Two of the miners made some rude remarks about me, joking about how young and green I was. They said they didn't know a boy from back east too young to grow a beard would be allowed in California. I paid them no mind, for I was determined to ask about finding room and board, and to learn how to get to the gold diggings. Well, in their own rough way, they were friendly enough, and offered to show me a place to stay. As it turned out, those two men, Willie McCauley and James Buck, in time became my good friends. Without them, I should have been quite lost. There seemed to be something happening every minute. I'd never seen things like this. The jail, the assay office, and the outfitter's place, where a miner could buy just about anything he'd need, from a saddle to, well, long underwear. I had a lot to learn. My friends told me I would need to be outfitted, so the next day I began. I was flabbergasted to find that a pick cost $3. An ordinary tin pan, $5. My hard cash was almost gone. When I found eggs selling for $3 apiece, I knew I would live on beans. At least until I made a strike in the gold fields. And what good fortune my new friends proved to be. Willie McCauley offered me a saddle. James Buck said I could ride his pack horse. They said anyone as young as I who'd made the trip alone across the whole country must be plain lucky. They allowed that maybe I'd bring them some good luck. So they said I could go along with them when they went back to the gold diggings. I spent that evening in town writing a letter back home. Tomorrow morning, I wrote, we set out for the hills to try our luck. I'm afraid I'm too excited to sleep. Early in the morning, we left Frontier Town for the nearby hills. It was a good thing I liked to ride. It was the one thing I could do in this new country. Yonder is one of the richest claims in the region, said James Buck. I looked, but saw only a stream and two men. No big mine, no heaps of gold. So this was it. This was gold mining. There were other miners almost everywhere. We passed some on the way. We saw others panning in the streams. Finally, James Buck said, "Here she is. Here's our claim. But we haven't worked this part yet. So let's get busy." I found out something fast. Gold mining wasn't fun. It was hard work. And this is what we did, day after day. We loosened the gravel with a pick, then washed it in a pan to get rid of the big stones and dirt. Being heavy, the gold was supposed to stay in the bottom of the pan. That is, if there was any gold. Most every day, I kept finding things that I thought might be... Nope. No. Finally, one morning, was it gold? Gold! Mm-hmm. It was gold! Dearest parents and Sister Betsy, this is the third week we've been working our claim. I'm averaging about $9 worth of gold a day. It's not a great fortune, but if it continues, I shall be doing well. I've been thinking about my future in California. The other day, when I was riding in the hills, I saw some country that I liked. There was a beautiful stream, a good place for locating a house, and a valley where a man could farm or graze cattle. I believe I'd like to settle hereabouts. I think there's more here than gold. I see settlers coming, and farms and ranches here, and a great future in California.
David Whitcomb was right. By the end of 1849, the population of California jumped from 10,000 to 100,000. By 1850, California was admitted as a state. And by 1852, its population was 270,000 people. The people settled. Towns grew. Where once the gold seekers roamed, there were fields of grain and cattle grazing. And so, California became an important part of the United States. The gold rush had played an important role in the expansion of our nation.